Today on our 2018 GMC Sierra 2500, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Universal High-Powered Diode Wiring Kit, part number RM-152. Now to help us in our installation, we're going to be using the Roadmaster Six-Wire Trailer Connector for the vehicle end, part number RM-910030-7, and the Roadmaster Bent Electrical Socket Bracket for that, part number RM-910030-5. For our flat tow setup on our 2018 Newmar Dutch Star, as well as our 2018 GMC Sierra 2500, we're going to go over all the parts that we used. To start out on our Sierra, we used the Roadmaster MS Baseplate Kit, as well as the Roadmaster High-Powered Diode Wiring Kit, the SMI Air Force One braking system, the Roadmaster Nighthawk all-terrain tow bar, the Roadmaster Tow Defender, the Roadmaster Dual Hitch Adapter with a 4-inch dropper rise that we have in the drop position, the Bulldog Winch Cut-Off Switch, the TireMinder tire pressure monitoring system, as well as the brass transmitters, and finally the Swagman Dispatch 2-bike platform rack that is RV approved. With all of those parts, we have everything we need to flat tow our Sierra behind our Newmar Dutch Star and get safely and securely down the road, even with our bikes, so we can start our adventure. So our high-powered diode kit is going to be a great option, and it's going to be a good solution over the old-style magnetic lights where you're having to run wires along the side of your truck, potentially scratching it up when you're going down the highway, and also a good option over the bulb and socket kit where you do have to drill into your taillight. Now the really nice thing about it is that everything's going to be hidden behind the taillight here, and we're not going to have to worry about any kind of extra maintenance once it's installed. Once we have it in, we're ready to go. Another big benefit of our diode kit is that if there were any kind of short circuits or any kind of electrical problems that were to happen on the motorhome, the diodes are going to protect our Sierra's electrical system so that we won't have anything backfeeding to our truck. Now at the front of the vehicle, you are going to have several different options of where and how you're going to mount it. And I do want to mention that the plug and the mounting bracket are not included in the kit, but we do have a wide variety of different mounting brackets as well as different style sockets that you can mount. And this is where you're going to hook up from your motorhome and plug it into your Sierra so that it can accept those signals. Now when we're not flat towing our Sierra, our vehicle and our lights are going to act completely normal and it's not going to be affected at all by our diode kit. Our kit is going to come with 4 high-powered diodes, 30 feet of wire, and all the connectors necessary to get it in place. We're only going to have to remove our taillights, test a couple wires, and run a few wires. So now that we've gone over some of the features, let's show you how to get it installed. To begin our installation, you're going to want to open up your tailgate because we are going to have to remove our taillights. We're going to have 2 fasteners that are holding our taillights in that we'll have to remove. I'm going to be using a T15 driver to take those out. You're going to take these out. You're going to want to try to grab the inside of the taillight and pull straight back because there is some alignment tabs on the side that you don't want to break. You just pull it out, and then we'll notice that we have all of our connectors holding our light sockets in place. So I went ahead and turned on the taillights, and we can see that our top and bottom bulb are both going to come on. So we're going to need to test on the back side of our lights here which wire is controlling that signal. So we're going to take some of this loom off this top socket here, just pull back some of the electrical tape, then we can pull that loom back to expose the wire, making it a little bit easier to work with. Now with our taillights on, we're going to test each one of these wires and figure out which one is our taillight signal. So it looks like when I hook my tester up to this brown wire and we test it, we can hear and see that it's lighting up my tester. So you're going to want to write that down or remember that the brown wire is going to be for our taillight signal. Now we can turn our headlights off and we're going to have an extra set of hands push on the brake so we can find our brake signal. So with our brake lights on, we can go ahead and test the other 2 wires to see if we're getting a signal there. So we see if I push on the green wire that it's lighting on my tester and we can hear that's it. So that's going to be for our brake signal. Now, if our extra set of hands would let go of the brake and turn the left turn signal on, you can see it's going. It should be the same wire, but we're going to go ahead and double check to make sure it is. So we're getting that intermittent signal going at the same time that our blinker's going. So the green wire on the left side is going to be for our brake and for our left turn signal. So with all of our wires figured out here on the left-hand side, we're going to move to the passenger side and repeat that same testing process, checking for our taillight signal as well as the brake and right turn signal. Now over here on the passenger side, we do have all the same colored wires and they're all going to be the same. So our brown wire again is going to be for our taillight signal. And our green wire is going to be our brake and our right turn signal. With all the wires figured out at the back and each signal pointed out, we're going to go ahead and move to the front of our vehicle and start running our wire. So you want to grab your 4-pole wiring. Now we're going to have our wiring coming out right here in this opening. We're going to mount our bracket and our connector right here. So we want to make sure that we leave just enough excess wire up here so we can wire everything up without having to fight. So we're going to take our wire and come underneath the bumper. I'm actually going to reach up and feed my wire up behind this plastic in the front here. It's going to hide it a little bit better too. And like I said, we're just going to leave just enough to where we have enough to work with. We can strip back our wire and wire up the plug. Now the rest of our wire here, we're going to be routing it underneath our truck, and we're going to go all the way back to the tailgate so we can get access to our taillights. Now everybody is going to do it a little bit different. I just want to mention you want to stay away from extreme heat sources like the exhaust, any moving parts like the suspension or steering components. So I'm going to go ahead and run this and then I'll show you how I routed it. So I had my wire come out through the front there. I went underneath this front skid plate, following it back. Then underneath this other skid plate, zip tying it along the way. Then I came out right here on the driver's side. I started running it along the top of the frame. So you can't really see it too well, but I just went along the top of the frame here, all the way back, zip tying it to some existing wiring and lines. And I kept going all the way to where I got to about where my fuel pump is. I tied it to some wiring there. And then I went around the leaf spring pack, coming in. Then I moved to the inside of the frame, right behind the fuel tank, right above the rear axle. Went over the supports for the bed, and I followed it all the way back until I dropped down by some existing wiring right here. Now I do want to mention while we're here that we are going to have to split our wires, but at the same time we may need to pick up some extra wire because we may not have enough to reach to our tail lights back and forth. So we can grab the end of our 4-pole wiring, and we're going to need to separate each one of these wires. Now the easiest way to do it is if you take a knife or a pair of cutters, and you're going to want to go right in between each one of the wires. Now you want to be careful not to damage the wire. We're just going to make a small cut in between the wires so that we can pull them apart and separate them. And we're going to want to pull each wire apart as far as we can, going all the way back to the top of the bumper. So we are going to have to get our 4-pole wiring up to our taillights. Now the easiest way that I found is if you take a coat hanger, or I'm going to be using a piece of airline tube that I had laying around, and we're going to feed it down through the top of our taillights. We're going to feed it down until we can gain access at the wires, and then we can pull it on up. So since we're on the driver's side, we're going to grab our yellow and brown wire. I'm going to find the ends of them, and then I'm going to take a little bit of electrical tape, and I'm going to attach it to the end of my airline tube. Now we can start pulling them up. And we're going to pull all the slack out. And it never hurts to take a double check underneath the truck, make sure that it didn't get caught. So with our wires up top, we're going to start with our yellow wire, which is going to be our left turn signal, and our brake signal wire on the left side. So if you remember on our tail light, that's going to be the green wire on the left side here. That's going to be for our turn signal and our tail light. So we're going to come downstream just a bit from the actual plug itself, and we're going to cut that wire and strip both ends back. So we can grab our diode. We're going to take two of the terminals that are on there, and we're going to crimp them on each end of the wire. Now with our yellow wire, we're going to estimate about how much wire we need to meet up with these terminals. Maybe give yourself a little bit of excess so you have a little wiggle room. We're going to cut it off, and then we're going to strip back the end of our yellow wire. And on the end of that yellow wire, that's where we're going to take the final terminal that was on our diode. And with all the connectors on our diodes, if we look on our diode, we're going to have two terminals on the inside and one on the outside of our diode. The out is going to go towards the tail light and towards the bulb. So we're going to plug the terminal that's on the end of the socket closest to the bulb into the out, and then the other two are going to go on the inside of our diode. Now it doesn't matter which one, we just want the other side of our green wire and our yellow wire to go in there. Now we're going to work with our brown wire. That's going to be for our taillight circuit. So on our vehicle, it's going to be that brown wire. That's going to be our taillight circuit as well. And it's going to go in pretty close to the same, but it is going to be slightly different. We're going to go ahead and cut the wire, strip back both ends, just like the other one. But this time when we grab the diode, we're going to grab the one with the yellow connector on it. So we're going to use the two blue connectors for our factory wiring here. You can take them off and crimp them on, just like the last one. And again, we're going to estimate about how much brown wire we need to meet up. Give ourselves a little bit of extra. But this time, we're going to hold on to the excess brown wire that we have. And we're going to strip back both ends of the brown wire. The one coming from underneath and the excess that we just cut off. Now we're going to combine these two wires together. Just twist the ends together. And then we'll be taking the yellow terminal and crimping it onto that wire. Then again, we can take our diode. Our brown wire is going to go on the in terminal, along with the one that's farthest away from our taillight bulb. And then the one closest to the bulb is going to go onto the outside. Now that excess wire that we did have, what this is going to do is this is going to go back down, and we're going to meet up with our green wire underneath. So we can strip back the end of that brown wire. Then we can take the included butt connector that's in our kit and slide it on and crimp it down. Now I had some extra black wire laying around. Now if you need some wire, you can pick some up on our website using part number 16-1-1, and that's going to be wire by the foot. And I think about 6 or 7 feet would be plenty of wire to go down and over to the other side. So we can slip the stripped end into the butt connector and crimp it in place. Now to give it a little bit better protection, I'm just going to wrap the butt connector in some electrical tape, and hopefully that'll keep out some of the moisture and any kind of corrosion buildup inside. Now we can take the end of our wire and we're going to drop it back down so we can meet up with the green wire. So now that we have our wire that we extended meeting up with our green wire, we're going to run it over to the passenger side, and we're going to do the same process of pulling the wire up to the tail light like we did on the driver's side. So our diodes on the passenger side here are going to be just like we did before. We'll start with our green wire, and that's going to be our brake and turn signal, which also on the vehicle is going to be our green wire. So we'll move down a little bit, cut the wire, and strip back both ends. And we can grab one of our diodes and place a terminal on each one of the ends of the stripped wire. And again, estimating about how much wire we need. We can cut the excess off our green wire, strip it back, and put that final terminal from our diode on there. And grab our diode. We have our in from from our green wire from underneath. The far side is going to go on the end as well. Farthest away from the socket on our tail light. And then the out terminal is going to go to the one that's closest to the bulb. Now we're going to repeat that for our extended wire that we ran as well, except it's going to be for our taillight signal. So with our diodes in place, you do have a couple different options depending on how much room you left yourself and how you wired them. On the back of our diodes, they do have some of this double-sided sticky tape, so you can either stick them together, or if you have enough excess wire, you can stick it to a metal surface. These do get a little hot, so you don't want to put them on the taillight itself because you don't want it to melt that plastic. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the tape off of each one. I'm actually just going to stick it to each other. That way it'll be a little bit smaller and we don't have to worry about them rattling around. Now you also want to make sure that you tie up any excess wire. What I like to do is I like to pull the wire up top and then I'll zip tie it right at the base of my taillight opening. That way I don't have to worry about it falling down. I'd rather have the excess wire towards the back of the taillight than down underneath where it could get caught on something when I'm driving down the road. So we can put our taillights back in place now. Just going to line up those alignment pins. We need to push it back in place, and then we can replace the two fasteners. We'll do that for the other side as well. So our white wire is going to act as our ground. So we're going to need to attach it to a piece of sheet metal or an existing ground on the vehicle. Fortunately, we're right here at the back of our bumper, so we can just take a self-tapping screw that is provided in the kit and we can drill it right into the bumper here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the excess wire, give myself a little bit of extra room, and we can strip back the end. Then we can take the included ring terminal in our kit, slide it over the wire, and crimp it in place. Then we'll be taking a 1/4-inch nut driver and we'll be drilling right into the frame, going through the ring terminal. Now the wiring up front here, we're going to be wiring into a 6-pole connector. Now if you're using a different connector, the principles are still going to be the same. We're going to be using this bracket to mount it up. Now we do have a wide variety of connectors and brackets available on our website. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to line it up in the general spot that we're going to put our bracket. I'm going to make 2 marks here and then drill out the holes. So now we can come back with a 1/4-inch drill bit and drill those out. Now it is just plastic, so it shouldn't have to take too much effort, but you want to be careful and go slow so you don't scratch the front of your car. With the holes drilled, I'm going to take some 1/4-inch hardware, some shorter bolts, and some flat washers. I'm going to go through my bracket. We can line our bracket up on the holes that we drilled, pushing the hardware down through. And then underneath we'll come back and put some nuts on to secure it into place. So on the underside I'm going to take another one of those 1/4-inch washers along with another nut, and I'm going to secure it into place. Now once we have them on there hand tight, you're going to want to grab a 7/16 wrench and socket, and then we can snug up the hardware. So we're going to take our connector and we're going to take the dust cover off the back of it. We're going to slide it onto the end of our wiring and just push it out of the way for now. And then we're going to slide our wiring through the hole so it comes out right here. And then we're going to have to split back the ends so that we have just a little bit of room to work with each wire individually. So we're just going to separate the wires just like we did at the back. You just want to be careful not to damage the wires. And this time we don't need that much, but we just want enough to work with so we can strip them back. Now at the back of our connector, they are labeled. So we're going to go through. The one on the top is going to be TM for trailer marker. That's going to be our brown wire. If we move over to the side, it's going to be GD for ground, which is going to be our white wire. LT for left turn, which is going to be the yellow wire. And RT for our right turn, which is going to be our green wire. Just take a small Phillips head screwdriver, and we're going to loosen up the set screws and put the wires in and tighten them down. Now I do want to mention, when you're putting these in, there have been instances that if you put too much of the wire in and you get the insulation inside the terminal, it may cause some issues. So I would like to just leave just a tiny bit of the wire out of the terminal, but making sure you get enough to make good contact. At the back of the terminal, I'm going to take a little bit of dielectric grease. I'm going to put it at the back of the connectors, and hopefully that'll keep out some of the moisture and prevent some corrosion from building up. So then we can slide our connector through the back of the mounting plate. We're going to take our dust cover and slide it right back into place. So now I'm going to take a couple more of those 1/4-inch bolts and washers. I'm going to go through the front of the connector, through the bracket, and then secure it down using another flat washer and nut on the back side. And we can come back with that same 7/16 wrench and socket and snug up our hardware. Now we can take some time and go back and clean up any of the wires and make sure that everything's nice and secure. So our final step is going to be testing to make sure that our lights are working properly. So I have my tester hooked up to simulate the motorhome pulling our Sierra down the road. And if I turn the taillights on, we can see that the taillights come on the truck. And the left turn signal, we can see that comes on, as well as the right turn signal. So we know everything's working good, and we're ready to hook up to our motorhome and start our adventure. And that'll finish up your look at the Roadmaster Universal High Powered Diode Wiring Kit, part number RM-152 on our 2018 GMC Sierra 25.
Thanks for watching. Click the link in our description below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com. And leave us a comment if you have any questions.